Welcome back to the Four Podmen, brought to you exclusively as part of the Dynamo podcast network, which by now you should all be subscribing to. If you hadn't, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification button so you get notified when the videos come through to your phone or your laptop or wherever you may be. Even if you're sitting on the jacks, why not listen to us? Basically bring you to where you want to be. It's us talking shy, so it's the perfect place. This is the Four Podmen. I am your host, Ian the Dynamo Kelly, joined as always by the shopkeeper, Niall Hogan, the beef, Joey D, and of course, DJ Kennedy himself. We are back for another week of the Four Podmen, and this week we are talking all about the rated R superstar that is Adam Copeland, Edge. Not the Edge. We're not going to talk about him. We're talking about Edge. So, yeah, lads, how's things going in this, I suppose, amazing weather that we're having here over in Dublin, Ireland, wherever you guys are in the world. I hope it's sunny. We are locked down in the snow in the very, very fucking Baltic weather, but we're getting through it, and we're here today to bring you another fantastic episode that only the Dynamo Podcast Network can bring you. How are you, lads?
Good, yeah. How are you?
Excellent, yeah.
Perfect.
Very windy out west now. That's the only thing.
You what?
Very windy out west.
Yeah. You see, someone's listening to this in Canada and going, well, like, I had to walk through fucking 3 feet of snow today. Eh? You get me, eh? You know?
You get what you deserve in this life weather-wise, you know what I mean?
Well, not us Irish, because it fucking changes on a daily basis. Well, then again, I suppose that explains the bipolar problem in Ireland. So the weather just mimics our actual feelings. So I think it's an interesting topic today because obviously Edge is talk of the town. After last week, of course, we did speak about the Royal Rumble. And of course, we welcome our resident DJ back to the show. Welcome back. He did take the form.
Good to be back.
Yeah, you did use your ability to change into a little bear, and
I did.
You took a vow of silence and shape shifted because you told us off air a couple of weeks ago that you had the ability to shape shift and take a vow of silence, and you did that for us last week. So
I did.
We all lost that bet. So there we go. Never bet against a shapeshifter if they tell you they are one, lads.
No. But no, Care Bear with a heart of coal. Yeah.
Exactly. But no, we obviously an amazing. We won't go through the Rumble again, but obviously Edge now gets his pick to go to Mania against whomever he may choose. But we decided we would actually deep dive and take a little bit of a CM Punk style look back at Edge's career. And we'll do it the only way the Four Podmen know how. We're not going to go through all the specifics, but as always, we go through the rundown. And let's start off, Niall, with the debut, because Jesus Christ, it seems like such a long time ago now.
Yeah, I suppose it's weird you begin with this guy. He's had such a career and such a stellar career as well, and it's it's kind of hard. I suppose we begin with a quick summary there.
Hardcastle, eh?
Yeah, but 11-time world champion.
Yeah,
4 reigns as WWE champion, 7 reigns as world heavyweight champion. WWE Hall of Famer 2012, 31 championships in total the man has had. Incredible when you think about it. Signed for WWE in 1997, entered developmental in 1998. Quick little summary there. King of the Ring 2001, Money in the Bank 2005, Rumble 2010 and 2021, as we all know.
11 years later, crazy, yeah.
Starts really, where he enters, comes in with the Brood with Gangrel, if you like, is the most relative one, if you like. That's where I kind of picked it up.
Said like only an Irishman can say it, Gangrel.
Gangrel. I had the privilege of having that man in the shop one day.
I love it.
Yeah. Then sort of moves from the Brood into the Ministry of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Then starts a feud with the Hardy Boys who then go on to form the New Brood, if you
Yeah.
like. 1999 wins the IC belt off Jeff Jarrett, won it on a house show, and then I think dropped it the following night at Fully Loaded, back to Jeff Jarrett. WrestleMania 2000, triple threat with the Dudleys and the Hardys, which later led to the infamous TLC matches. Goes from gothic then to comedy. You get your 5-second pose with Christian and all this stuff, and for the benefit of flash photography. TLC matches at SummerSlam 2000, Mania 17, and Rumble 2001. These are the outstanding matches in his career, without a shadow of a doubt. All three tag teams that we have spoken about on previous episodes, breaking new ground in innovation and everything else. World Heavyweight Champ 2004, 2005. Then deep dives into the on-screen affair with Lita, mimicking reality between himself, Lita, and Matt Hardy.
We got a glimpse of Lita's tit during that as well. I paused that.
Yeah, we did.
Career highlight.
Yeah. Which for me is a kind of it's the only kind of bubble in the career, if you like, you know.
Yeah.
Goes on then at tears his pec, so he's out for a little while, comes back and launches the Cutting Edge show, the birth of the Rated R Superstar. WWE Champion 2006, New Year's Revolution, Money in the Bank cash in with John Cena, and then you see the birth of the Concerto. Feuds with Mick Foley at WrestleMania 22. I'm sure none of our listeners need to be reminded about that match. It was a bloodbath. I experienced that match firsthand. I was in the stadium. SummerSlam 06 defeats. That's it. SummerSlam 06 defeats Cena, and you get the birth of the Rated R Spinner Championship,
which was a beauty one. Yeah, to be fair.
Which was a beauty one, and sort of
said no one.
Yeah, but kind of helped the acceptance of the spinner belt as a championship.
Who did it now?
Well, I think it did, because no one liked the championship. The spinner one itself.
It did in one particular shop, which is the sponsor of this particular here podcast, which is Wrestling Mania, located in the beautiful city centre of Dublin.
The spinner. It's being asked which piece of shit you want to eat. Would you rather eat the big one or the little one? They're both pieces of shit, but I'll take the little one. However, continue.
I have invoices from primary and secondary schools to say it was popular.
Jay just interrupted the sponsorship segment. Where's the teddy bear?
What's there? Yeah. I drop kicked. I punted it last week like Snitsy with the baby.
Forgive me, professionality. Continue.
This is some career now, and you're interrupting me. You know what I mean?
Spinner belt.
2006, 2007, we see the birth of Rated RKO. And they had feuds with DX. And then he takes the Money in the Bank off Kennedy. Before Kennedy gets a chance to cash in. And he cashes in on Taker. 2007 to 2009, a very strange period, is the period of La Familia, where you get him hanging out with Chavo and Vicky, and this love affair with Vicky, and then you get the
very weird.
Very strange, and you get the infamous Edgeheads. I think it was Mr. Hawkins and Mr. Ryder. Mania 20
played the creep very well, didn't he? Actually, because when he kissed women and all, you were like, "That's a disgusting human being." Like, big fucking mouth on him. Like, yeah, it was just very creepy with Vicky Guerrero.
I think he was very creepy with Lita as well, in fairness.
He was very creepy, very creepy individual on screen anyway.
Yeah. Mania 24 loses to Taker in what was a fantastic match at Mania 24 against Taker. Arguably, possibly prior to his injury and stuff like that, one of the men that probably would have been in the running to drop the streak to, in my mind. Goes on to one night stand and regains the belt, and then drops the belt to our main man, the Second City Saint, CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
Mania 25 drops the belt to Cena in a triple threat. You'll remember this was a god-awful triple threat. It was the one where Cena had both boys on his back in a show of strength. And goes on then to become tag team champ with Jericho. What a team.
That was good, actually. That's a good one to shout out.
2010 to 2011, Mania 26 loses to Y2J and then goes on to have feuds with Orton, Sheamus, and Cena. So you can see this is this period in WWE where there's a lot of recycling of these different feuds. It's going around in a circle constantly all the time, which is very hard wearing on the fans. Then he goes on to feud with Swagger and Ziggler. If you remember the feud with Ziggler, it was related to Vicky Guerrero, and that was awful as well. Teams with Mysterio. TLC pay-per-view regains title against Alberto. After feuding with Ziggler at the Rumble 2011, gets fired by Vicky, stripped, but regains the title. So he got fired. Then, if you remember, lost the belt. I think the belt went on to... Did the belt go on to Ziggler, I think, at the time?
So, yeah. That's when he
and
had
then,
the world, yeah.
And then our main man, Teddy Long, comes out, reinstates Edge, and he gets the championship back. WrestleMania 27 defeats Alberto Del Rio. You'll like that, Ian. April the 11th announces his retirement when he diagnosed with spinal stenosis. Relinquishes the title. Returns at Rumble 2020. Massive pop. I think gets eliminated by Reigns and starts the feud with Orton. Yeah. And after that, then he gets injured shortly after that and then returns again at Rumble 2021 to win it and heads off on the road to WrestleMania.
Beautiful little kind of career breakdown there, Noel, because, it's nice to kind of hear that and like where to start on that is what really excites me, because obviously we should probably start somewhere in between.
At the start.
Yeah, well, definitely with the tag team, with the feuds with the Dudleys and the Hardy Boys, because obviously we did talk about Royal Rumble 2000 and how great a match that was. And
yeah, an excellent way to come in on a career like this. Forgive me for interrupting you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the lay of the land around him before he landed. I mean, what year did he come in? What was hot and what was not currently on the card? You know what I mean? It's nice to find out where he broke in, what was around him. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel if you start on a retrospective on a career like that, which was excellently done, by the way, it reminded me a lot of stuff I fucking forgot. Mm-hmm. He has had a storied career.
Yeah.
Well, that's the conversations I was having with Ian during the week, that this was an outstanding career. Yeah. I said to Ian even during the week, even in comparison to CM Punk, you might not get those sort of, ticker shift moments at times, but in terms of an actual career and titles and importance and moments and all, like, it's unbelievable.
I believe the kids call it low key, don't they?
Well, he had a very long run at the in the Fed as well, compared to people like Punk or whatever. So it's a different kind of career in that sense. Even Jericho, I suppose, he was there. Part of the whole Canadian Hearts fucking thing, moving in at the right time, coming in, and obviously bringing Christian into the fold as well. Then it was just perfect timing. You know what I mean?
Some men step into pressure. Some men step into pressure, like Punk's. Punk stepped into a lot of pressure around him. He earned his fucking spurs through many rungs on the ladder. But Edge has been a fucking stalwart in the corner in the house since the get-go. And whenever they need him, he's one of these power player, pieces where we're down 3 men. Send in the Edge. I mean, when you consider what he did with the fucking tag division, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So it's a retrospective career.
No, I mean, there's no need to talk about specific matches as such. We can talk about
no. I mean, the importance of the man.
Yeah, the importance of that. They kind of those 3 teams in particular that we mentioned, the Dudleys, the Hardys, and the Edge and Christians. Joe, you were a big fan of that faction, and in fact, you actually have more validity to speak on that than, say, me or Jay, for example, because you were a big fan on that. So, in terms of that division, and I know you're a big tag team wrestling guy as well. Me and Jay were tag team guys, and Noel, of course, but in the old school sense, these guys brought something completely different, where you would see lads wearing different gear. They looked the same, but they were wearing different gear. It wasn't just wearing the exact same matching singlet and the exact same, matching whatever. So what, like, for you, how important was that, like, in terms of you being a wrestling fan?
Well, it was huge. You know what I mean? Like, you have to remember, WWE have never, or WWF, they've never taken tag teams wrestling all that seriously. you know, to be honest, never for a prolonged period of time anyway. And then those three teams came in and completely changed the game. You know, you had the Hardys doing their mad shit, trying to half kill themselves. You had the Dudleys just beating the piss out of everyone around them.
Yeah.
And then you had Edge and Christian just, you know,
the jokers, like.
Well, not just that. They were just brilliant. They were brilliant at absolutely everything. Anything you asked them, they were more than capable of doing it. You know, but the three teams played off each other absolutely beautifully. Regardless if there was only two of the teams in it or there was three of them in it, it didn't matter what the combo was. They were fantastic and stole the show more often than not.
The two boys kind of almost had an old school wrestling anchor feel to them. Like you said, the way the Hardys were fucking new, young, hot rock and roll, sexy guys jumping high flying. Yeah. The Dudley boys smashing the shit out of everything. But the two boys always had this consummate, old school kind of, we're wrestlers. We can do that other shit as well, but we're pro wrestlers as well. Like, excellent.
They were massively charismatic, the pair of them, Edge and Christian.
Yes.
Stupidly charismatic. If they were to be taken seriously, they could do that. If they were a comedy act, they could do that. They were just fucking fantastic, like absolutely brilliant. I
read an interview today on Edge, and I never actually knew this. First time I ever heard this. Vince McMahon, when he saw Edge, just went, right, because he is a very unique looking character. I mean, Vikings and all that is a perfect show for him because he looks like he's he's a Nordic, you know what I mean? Definitely. Viking motherfucker. But he said when he saw him, apparently, and I like literally first time today I heard it, he called, because this was 96, 97, I think it was. He called Bret Hart and said, "You're off at the moment," because I think he was doing that show. He said, "I got a guy down here from Toronto willing to relocate to Calgary. Can you train this guy?" And like, I was like, you know, Bret was like, "Yeah, sure, send him up or whatever." He helped. Now it was kind of training for the WWE style. You know what I mean? He'd been doing the rounds or whatnot on the indie shows, but say, "Can you get this guy in and basically just kind of hone his craft,
refine him?" Yeah,
exactly. Bret was like, "Yeah, sure." And Edge actually said, like, he goes, "I couldn't believe it." He was like, "Yeah, so you're going up to Bret and you're going to stay with him for a while and blah blah blah." And he was like, "What? That's my hero." Yeah, sure. So it's you can kind of almost see that they put a lot of equity, you know, into Edge from the early on because of that look. I mean, probably a legitimate 6'4", 6'5", I would say as well. Not much kayfabe needed there. Really good shape. Probably when he came in, probably wasn't as bulky as Vince would like, but definitely had a really good shape. I think the steroids for Edge worked in a good way in the sense that it just made him bulky, but he was so fucking ripped. You know what I mean? Really, really kind of good looking kid. The fucking hair is ridiculous. He's got that Jay Kennedy hair going. You know, you're born with it or you're not, like, you know what I mean? As Niall's wife would say, she's a very, very big Edge fan, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think it's like, just touching on the point that Jay made, like they obviously trained in that old school way, that old Canadian way where they take wrestling very, very serious up there. So brought up with the right, I suppose, morals within the wrestling business, and brought that to the WWE with the elements of comedy. Because, Joe, would you agree? Like, I mean, Jay kind of pointed that out there. You've got the Hardys, who are basically like the Rock and Roll Express in a modern way. Then you've got the Dudleys, who are basically your road warriors coming in, smashing everybody, again, in a different way, different body types. And then you've got these two guys that can come in and actually technically do it. They can work, but they have that element of comedy as well. Do you know what I mean? Outside of the ring, I guess, in promo work, but definitely can go in the ring, you know?
Oh, absolutely. As I said, like, if they needed to be taken seriously, they could be, you know, but their comedic timing together, the way they played off each other, and not just off each other, the way they played off other guys around them, like, they were just phenomenal at what they did.
Yeah.
You know, like, if they, as I said, they could play off anybody, you know, because the two of them played off each other so well that if there was someone else thrown into the mix, it didn't matter. They were just able to do it. And they were, as I said, I fucking loved them. Like, you know, do you remember they had the kazoo gimmick for a while?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And yes, it was amazing. Like, you know, it was just phenomenal. They were just absolutely. And then those glasses that went over the head, and
Oh,
all that nonsense. And as you mentioned, Noel, the 5-second pose for the benefit of flash
Flash
photography.
photography.
Remember the night they came out and did the Hillbilly Band. The Hillbilly Band. Remember they had the teeth.
yes.
They
They
do,
had
actually.
the teeth. Yeah.
Man, they were just phenomenal. Sometimes I go back and I look at that TLC period at its height, and you look at these three teams on paper and you go, how are they going to have some chemistry? It's interesting to see who put that together and who booked it with the boys and stuff like that and brought them along and stuff, because I don't know how that chemistry came about, but it absolutely spawned and was phenomenal. Like, it was just unbelievable chemistry between the three teams.
And
Now,
as I
you
said,
probably would have thought between the Hardys and Edge and Christian, yeah, but like these sort of disgruntled,
Well, I think Vince
Dudley.
Russo definitely takes credit for putting those three together on TV so much. You know what I mean? Again, people.
Well, he would.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, people like to rewrite history and make Russo out to be fucking have nothing to do with it. But the fact is, he put these guys together. Do you know what I mean?
It's like they took a fly on the three teams, didn't they? And it became a moment in time.
Yeah.
When we talk about sometimes they book these things and it just gets blown so far out of proportion in how successful it is. As you said, Joe, those matches at the time were just absolutely incredible. Blew people away.
I think it helped as well. We're talking about a transitionary time. You talk about that 96, 98 period. There was a change in the guard, and these men came in, and you could see between the three tag teams, they all loved wrestling. First and foremost, they loved the business before they loved being famous. And secondly, they knew who they were. You couldn't put them men in a room and say, well, I'm going to need you to be you're an accountant and you're a tax return guy, and go out there and be who you are. It's like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. I have a kazoo. It's going to be great. And then you got the Dudleys. It's like, it's not all about tables, pal. It's like, it fucking is. We've got a truck full of tables and there's a load under the ring. We're going to be using them. And you got the Hardys. Like, they couldn't be anybody else but the Hardys. They had it's a unique time in pro wrestling where it wasn't so heavily scripted. These men knew who they were. They knew they loved the business, and they also weren't afraid to allow their personalities to shine through whatever was being draped on them anyway. So it was just boom, and very easy to fucking watch when men are enjoying what they're doing anyway.
When you were saying there, Jay, about like the fact that they love wrestling, all six of them, like just look at where they all came from. You know what I mean? They went through the shit to get to the top. They really did, like, you know what I mean? So you have, if that's the way you go to the top, yeah, the only way you can get there is by loving going through the crap in the first place to get there. So you know what I mean? Because like Edge and Christian used to tour with Rhino in a shitty little van around Canada and Michigan and stuff like that, like, you know what I mean? And then you had the Dudleys that were trying to cause riots in fucking bingo halls, and then
they were basically they were like saying to women that, like, their daughter was a fucking slut and their mother was a slut, and literally saying it in that verbiage.
Then you had the Hardys that they were jumping off their fucking back porch and all this kind of crack, you know what I mean?
Still in the backyard.
They just absolutely loved what they were doing.
Yeah, no, you do. You have to love it. You have to, and you can tell this generation is speaking. If you've got a whole cast of roster from all over the world and men who make it to the apex, you can always tell by looking at certain men when they work, regardless of where they are in their station. There's certain men who are groomed for big time, and it's like a bank job to them. Get in there, get half for 4 years, and get the fuck out with your spine in place and as much money in as you can. And then you get these other men who are like, hey, listen, I'll do this till I'm broke up, and you'll have to fucking pull me out of that ring and put me into the grave because I'm a pro wrestler, and before anything, that's what I am. And whether it's, working for 2 hamburgers and $40 fucking gas money, or, living in a caravan drunk and still shooting when I'm between fucking federations like the Hardy Boys, you can't stop these men from shining. There's certain pro wrestling athletes who put the business and what they are before who they are. And it comes true. And there's a reason that they have careers like this. There's a reason we're sitting around talking about Edge and the fucking Hardy Boys and the Dudleys. They clearly love what they do. Whereas there's a lot of men who don't, and they fall by the wayside over years and get real bitter about the business that chews them up and spit them out. All of them men, if they hadn't made the big show, would probably still be fucking beating the shit out of each other in front of 16 people in a bingo hall. Some men are made for it.
I think on that note, that's actually a perfect segue into our next part, because you're talking about a man who basically the first chance he got, even as a married man with children, the first chance he got when a doctor said you're clear to go again, came back. So I think we'll take a little break, and when we come back, we will get into Edge's breakaway from the tag team division into the singles career that he had, and boy, is there a lot to talk about. Welcome back to the Four Podmen with me, your host, Dynamo Kelly, joined as always by these three fine stallions beside me, Mr. D.K. Kennedy, shopkeeper Niall Hogan, and of course the beef, Joey D. So we are speaking about Edge, as you know, and what we are going to do now is we're going to break away from the tag team division and get into Edge's singles career. Now, Niall, you gave us a nice little deep dive at the start of the show. When about, like, because what year was it actually when he broke proper singles wise? Because it feels like he went straight in at the very tippy top.
Yeah, well, the world heavyweight champion. His run was really 04 to 05.
Yeah,
that's when he really hit his peak, if you like, in terms of the top title.
Yeah,
and then that led on, as we know, to the on-screen affair with Leda in that love triangle with Matt Hardy.
A lot of people were like, that was real heat. Yeah, that was real heat.
Yeah. And it was also, I remember at the time, it was a difficult watch as well, you know what I mean? I think Matt at the time had gone off to, if I'm correct, Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor, yeah.
Yeah, he was working in Ring of Honor, and then he came back and he jumped the barrier that night to attack Edge.
Oh, and it was as well done, legit as it possibly could be. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it didn't look too much like a work, in fairness. There was a few stiff ones thrown in there, all right. But then kind of at the
better too, yeah.
Yeah, but then kind of at the peak of that, then he gets the pec tear, and that kind of stalls things, you know. And he's gone for a little while that heals up, and then they're missing him, so they bring him back to do the Cutting Edge show, where it's you know, he's still healing up at the time, and he launches this Cutting Edge show, which was really, really good, you know. And then from there, then he takes into you know, then this is where we see the birth of the rated R superstar, the crude, lewd, and tattooed, the kind of, you know,
the best t-shirts probably.
Yeah, probably the best merch. Although, I mean, some of the Edge and Christian ones were pretty cool as well back in the day.
These were cool t-shirts though that you could wear into a bar, say in Parnell Street.
These are the shirts I say didn't. These are the shirts that didn't stink of wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I described them.
Being sleazy kind of stuff.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So then, of course, 2006, he's WWE champion, and he's off and running again. Cashes in on
his first world title. Let's go and look at that.
Yeah, I don't have that right here in front of me. Actually, I just have the timeline on it.
No worries. I'll get it. Don't worry.
Yep.
That's why we're here. You keep going, Noel.
Yeah, then he's on the you know, he cashes in the Money in the Bank to John Cena, and this is where we see the real birth of Edge as the kind of, you know, that real on-screen heel, where he develops that concerto move, which is horrific looking when you look at it. Like, it's really it's a proper heel move, really, when you look at it.
Was he not doing that with Christian? No.
He was, yeah, but the birth of it really, you know, not the one, not the double one, you know, where he does the single one to the head on the mat.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm talking
2006 against John Cena. That's when he cashed in. First one.
Yeah.
Now I remember. Needed to be fucking told though. Thank you, Google.
And then this is where he starts calling out boys. Then he starts calling out the likes of Mick Foley, and he goes onto a bit of a run with Mick Foley. And that culminates with that match at Mania 22, which was a brutal hardcore match, if you remember. Both guys left everything in the ring. And the vision I always remember is Edge at the top of the ramp after the match, covered in blood, and his hand He has his hand like this. His arm there's blood pouring out of his hand and his arm and everything. And he's getting those tremors in his hand at the top of the stage where Foley has really put him through the mire, if you like. You know what I mean? If you remember, they had the flaming table, remember, with Lita?
Yeah.
He did the flaming table dive to the outside and there was barbed wire. And
that's it. Because I remember in the build up to that match, because going back, just rewinding there to 2006 when he did cash in and beat John Cena, it was so underhanded. And we remember in 2006, this is shortly after the steroid ban as well, because of the whole Benoit situation. And you could tell in Edge's particular case, he had no actual physique. He was just a big man. And do you remember people were actually calling him out on that? They were saying he looks kind of just pudgy, like, compared to the way Edge used to look.
Soft.
Very, yeah, in that sense. So it was actually kind of crazy that Edge was the guy where there was guys that were still looking, pretty fucking in good shape. But, I mean, i.e. John Cena didn't look to really lose much, did he? Triple H didn't look to lose much. And I remember that famous interview after the Benoit debacle. And John Cena was asked, do you take steroids? And he goes, you'll never know if I have, but you can never prove. Oh, no, you'll never know if I did, but you can never prove that I have. And I was like, you're basically saying, yeah, like, what the fuck? That's a man that just doesn't want to lie, but justifies himself going, well, growth hormone's a different story. But yeah, Edge kind of, he looked a lot. I mean, look, he still looked great. Do you know what I mean? Just in terms of the physiques that we were used to seeing on TV, it was very, very noticeable in Edge, but that's when he gets the big run. And the reason I brought that up is because one thing I think that's more so than Edge's wrestling ability, I think the one thing that really stands out to Edge is his character work. And the reason I kind of stopped you there, Niall, is because when you were saying the hand was trembling at the top of the ramp, he's such a good actor. You know what I mean? His facial expressions, his in-ring ability when he knows where the hard camera is. He knows when to sell, when not to sell. And I think that's one of the things that stands out to Edge for me personally, above, say, his wrestling ability, if that makes sense to anybody. And I can see that's why he got that push, because good Lord, the man could sell in the ring and tell a story. Don't get me wrong, he was a good wrestler. But like we were talking earlier, Jay, I don't think he's on the level, say, in ring technically as someone like a CM Punk or any of these guys, or a Jericho or something like that. But his actual, some would even argue that Christian was the better wrestler. Even some would say.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. It's interesting. Again, when you analyze and you go back and you look at a performer's career retrospectively, there's certain things that you pick up on. And pro wrestling as a business, I know a common buzz phrase that we use around these parts is between bells.
Mm-hmm.
What you do between bells is important. You're given a move set. What you do with that and what you do to progress the physicality of the sport is everything. That is what makes you a skilled technician and a consummate professional wrestler. But what isn't done and what separates from guys who continue to get pushed up gradually, slowly, and continually over a long career is what you do between moves. I've always professed that the consummate professional wrestler knows that not a second should be wasted, and what you do to sell, what you do to convey the serious gravitas of the situation, what you do to push your skill set as a professional wrestler between moves is very important. Not a second should be wasted. And Edge is one of these men who knows that just because what he's done to another man to fucking drop him or smash his head into a chair or whatever, that's not where the move stops. Not 1 second should be wasted, whether you're staggering, whether you're selling, whether you're on the ramp looking down at the crowd, breathing it in, or conveying an atmosphere or just a tangible progressive view on what you're doing. You should always be on. Just because your move is done doesn't mean you're done. you've got to do. Edge is one of these men who does this. He like you said, he conveys his work as an actor when he's not wrestling, and the marriage of these two things makes it great. Not 1 second should be wasted. If the camera is on you, be pay, be money, be ticket, be box office, be in front of the crowd, but not be aware of the crowd. Sell what you're doing to the man in the ring. And Edge was fucking excellent at that. Whether he's a heel or a sleazebag, whether he's a fucking baby face or whether he's pushing the agenda, even when he's doing a sleazy shit with later on in his career with the Vicky Guerreros or the Elitas, it doesn't matter how many, White Knight Jameses right into the fucking arena and boo him, or you should always be what you are, and he is that. He is an actor. He's an actor and a wrestler in the same place at the same time, and almost does it unaware of the fact that we're watching him. It's one of the things with Edge, whether you're mid card this week, you're tag team that week, your nostalgia, he's always fucking very aware of himself in front of the camera, and it's what separates him from men who have as much skill and talent as him in the ring, but don't get to the level he's at.
But Noel, that's it, because I know, Noel, you're a big Edge fan, and I know you were agreeing with what I was saying there as well, because we did speak about it during the week and we were talking about it. But one thing, and I'm sure you will agree with this, that Edge had, and it's very something similar to what Triple H had. He could use a situation like Lita, for example, a real life situation. Because obviously he had that situation with Steph and China and all that. So that's why I kind of use this example. He can use that to his advantage and say, right, fans hate me now because they think I'm a home wrecker or whatever. And I can use that to my advantage. And you know what? I'm not going to give a fuck. Now, behind the fucking hard camera, I'm sure he's going, listen, Matt was a good friend of mine. Yeah, I hate about it. We fucking fell for each other, blah, blah, blah. It didn't last long, but still. He used that to his advantage. And Niall, why don't you just kind of come in, and how do you interpret that as well? Do you think that's one of the reasons, kind of based off what Jay was saying there, that he kind of did shoot to the fucking tippy top as well? Because Vince, a good affair. I love it.
Well, you see, what we say with these things all the time is that timing is everything.
Yeah, in pro wrestling, yeah.
100%. And when you look at that timing, if you can go back to that time in WWE, we'd come off all the Benoit stuff. They'd lost a number of performers, and then they introduced the wellness policy.
Yeah,
and then
the start of it. Yeah,
this was the nightmare for creative, who were at the time, creative were writing long programs all the time, so they were mapping out the year long, good bit ahead. And a lot of guys were getting popped, and then creative were just ripping that stuff up into the bin. But if you remember as well, at that time, that was a time where they'd such a very shallow roster in terms of who you could work with at that level. And, maybe there's an argument there to say, well, there was guys there, but they just weren't given the chance. That might be true in some cases. But I remember back in that time.
Well, it was kind of Cena, Orton, and Edge, wasn't it, really?
And it kind of revolved around that. And then, our boy Sheamus came into the mix after a while as well.
Your boy, not mine.
But in terms of Ireland. But in terms of if you look at it,
people I hate.
Yeah.
Most of the people I hate are Irish.
Sorry.
Segue. But in terms of that time in WWE, the roster was so shallow, and this is where you actually see that push. This is at a time as well, remember, when they were beginning to get ready for this launch of, they were going down this road of thinking about the network, and I think they were talking about the Netflix thing, and all this kind of stuff was coming on board. So they were looking at ways to produce, like they were going to come under pressure in terms of content, but they hadn't got the roster in order to create the content. And this is where we're starting to see the birth of, like the Performance Center or OVW or Florida Championship Wrestling, and trying to generate that talent and bring it through, because there was really no talent pool there. I mean, if you think of SmackDown during that period, it was literally carried by Edge and Orton week after week after week. And in terms of either facing each other, either heel or babyface, or tagging with each other. And that was really, that sums up SmackDown a lot in that period of time. Like, it was so shallow. Like, and then
like when you're telling me that Mr. Kennedy is the best you've got going, and I'm sorry, I never subscribed to that nonsense. It was a good, don't get me wrong, the Kennedy character had its place for sure. No doubt. But at the tippy top, as a guy that's fighting for your title, nine.
His push was too quick. He was never allowed to germinate and grow.
Quick. And I agree with what Niall's saying there. Joe, what do you think about like Edge's rise to that kind of world championship level? I mean, he deserved it. We know that. We've established that. I mean, anybody that argues that, look, go back and watch the product, I would say, at that time, and maybe it might refresh your memory. That's all I would say on that.
Yeah, well, I was never the biggest fan of Edge. Like, I never understood the hype around him. He was obviously good, don't get me wrong, but I never understood how he was at the top. I always thought Christian was 10 times better than him, and and I said it before on a previous show that if TNA had been a genuine competitor to WWE, they would have shat themselves when they saw what he was doing what Christian ended up doing at TNA. But now, talk about deserving things and stuff like that. He definitely earned his way there. He was always putting on consistently good matches. He was part of that infamous SmackDown 6, who were just tearing it up in tag teams and singles action. They were all like, when you think it was, you had the two Guerreros, Chavo and Eddie.
Yeah.
You had Edge, obviously. You had Benoit, Rey Mysterio, and who's the bloody, and Kurt Angle. You know what I mean? And they just even naming them, that it's going to be good. Like, now, as I said, I never understood the whole pushing him to the top thing, but he did really, really well. Like, if someone had told me at the time that, this is the guy, this is the next big guy, I would have gone, nah, he's nowhere near good enough.
Well,
I was completely proven wrong. He did it really, really well.
And that kind of lends, that point kind of lends itself to what we said earlier, and what me and Niall talked about was that, it wasn't the Edge from the Edge and Christian days that we got. We got this fucking sleazeball, this lad that you wanted. You know what I mean? And he let himself be that guy. I mean, his T-shirt said it's easy being sleazy. So he knew he had people by the fucking short and curlies, and he was saying, yeah, call me those names and keep buying my shit, because this is my retirement fund, motherfuckers. And sure enough, things just come to me. His retirement wasn't long, after that, 2011, which was quite an emotional retirement, to be fair. He announced it. You could tell that he couldn't even do the proper entrance that he used to do. Because the one thing I did like about Edge's entrance was that, he brought the fire when he had that big long jacket, and he'd go to either side of the ramp, and it wasn't my favorite type of entrance, but I can see why.
I always hated that song.
You know what? It wasn't my favorite. Alter Bridge.
I always hated it.
Yeah.
Of
course,
my favorite. Fucking Kennedy, I hate that cunt.
I loved his because well, we know why, Jay. He's an Axl Rose.
Because he's shit. Yes, because he's just shit.
I always preferred his Rob Zombie music. Never Gonna Stop Me. I thought that was an absolute.
Yes.
I always really thought that suited Edge a lot more. Never gonna stop me.
We've also spoke before about how important that breaking the curtain to that particular song is, and
exactly. And I think
I always thought he was cool when he came through the smoke.
Yes.
The way the smoke was coming up, and he come through the smoke, and he always kind of had. Remember, he used to come through that smoke with the long jacket and leader on his arm.
Well, the way he done it later, he kind of altered it and didn't go to either side, and he just came out and put the hands up. I was like, boom! Now you've found your place. And I did appreciate that he brought that kind of energy. The crowd fed off it. I understand that. I think. I don't think he needed to, because you can tell Edge is just a big child. You know what I mean? He's very similar in the sense that he's into much like the successful episode we had with the Punk episode. He's mad into his comics and his music, and so he is a big kid.
He's very of his generation.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love that because that's me. I love that shit.
But as Jay alluded to earlier as well, he just looked like he really enjoyed it, like it was a hobby. The payoff was just a side issue to it. It was a hobby to him, and he just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the great thing about it. As a pro wrestling fan, you want to see that the guys enjoy doing what they do, and this kind of brings us full circle. The retirement in 2011. It was 2011, right? Yeah. Or was it 2010? I don't know, there was 11 years in between it anyway, but either way, 11 years out of the ring, regardless of the numbers, I'm sure somebody will correct us. And
he won the Rumble in 2010, didn't he?
You what?
Won the Rumble in 2010.
Yeah, and retired shortly after that. So
it was 2011.
2011, so I was right. Yeah. So hold those comments, boys and girls.
No, don't comment.
Yeah, please do.
About anything, just comment.
Oh no, comment. Yeah, but don't come at me. Don't come at me with your little facts when I was factually right.
Go at him.
He literally retired.
Don't be a James, right?
He literally retired.
Jay, don't be a James.
We love you, James.
He literally retired a week after defeating Alberto Del Rio at WrestleMania 27.
Yeah. And then he went off to bury bitches. We love you, James. Yeah, so
nearly Easter, isn't it?
It is. It is actually. I can't wait for an egg.
But you know what? Actually, it was Joe brought up a very interesting fact there that I hadn't factored in. I often wonder, like, when you get a situation in pro wrestling, who you throw the dice with. I think Christian would have done just as well and just as much, like, between the pair of them. I
believe so.
I so do I, and it's always defied me mind as the logic wise as to why they never threw the dice with Christian the way they did with Edge. I don't know what it was. Probably the heat from the fucking Lita scandal that they had a natural greasy heel.
I don't think they ever figured out how to market Christian, because remember this time in the period, or this time in the business as well, was all about the merchandise and the push.
Can I say one thing, Noel? You might agree with me on this actually. I think when Christian cut his hair, he was just a generic tall lad with like short blonde hair.
It was probably a physique thing, actually, thinking about Vince McMahon still fully sitting in the chair with nobody around him.
Christian was just as big as Edge, maybe a little bit shorter, not much though. But I mean, when I saw they made the boo by saying that Christian was 5'10" and he's standing beside Jericho, and you absolute lunatics! What are you talking about? Jericho is literally Ian Kelly's height. Christian is fucking there. He's like,
just when Jay was talking about the physique thing, like I don't know, you guys heard the story where Vince McMahon was talking about putting a blue dot over Christian's face as a gimmick, like he came out in the end. But also, the other thing just talking about. Pardon?
He clearly took a dislike to him,
but
from a business perspective.
Yeah, but when you talk about the physique thing, Edge had a much better physique. There's no doubt about that, because with Christian. If you look
Christian
at Christian,
had a boxer physique. He always had that real flat chest, didn't he? Like the real.
Well, no. If you look at him, his limbs are too long for his torso.
Yeah.
And I think Vinnie Mac, who is mad into big into his aesthetics, big body, big into his bodybuilding and all that.
He loves
I'd say he just looked at Christian and went, "That man looks awkward." Because as I said, his limbs were too long for his torso, but. The dude was just unbelievable.
He was the opposite of Benoit. Yeah. He was the opposite of Benoit.
the one thing I would stress, if you go down through your history in the business, even in recent times and stuff like that, anytime a tag team breaks up, there's always one man that shoots to the moon, and there's always one man that's left in the dust. Yeah. Generally speaking, I think if you go down through, I mean, is there any tag teams we can remember?
Well, how many phone calls did Stu Hart have to make to to Vince McMahon? Hey, you wouldn't have something for the old Rhino, would you? No,
it's true.
Wife is calling me. They got a mortgage,
Yeah.
But then again, the old dynamic of the tag team as well is one is to be a pin-up for the schoolgirls on the fucking bedroom wall, and the other has to be the fucking beast, the man who comes in, hot tags and smashes. That's the old traditional.
But even the point that Noel makes, it's right. Even if it's under a different guise or a different gimmick, when you even think of the Demolition, right? Axe is gone.
None of them were on bedroom walls.
Fucking Barry Darsow gets the Repo Man gimmick. Fair enough, not successful, but he got a fucking Hasbro figure out of it.
A heartthrob he was not.
A heartthrob he was not. But in fairness, they gave him a gimmick, and in fairness, he was a good antagonist for a good year and a half run there to the likes of the Intercontinental.
Well, that's unfair though. With Smash got sick, didn't he?
Smash was Barry Darsow. He was the Repo Man.
Okay, Axe. Forgive me.
Axe
had the better mouth on the pair of them.
Yeah,
I love watching Axe talk. I love watching him talk, man.
Noel's point is very correct, though. Do you know what I mean? It's like I can't think of, and I'm sure that's what you were going to ask, Noel. Was it like I can't think of someone that there was one, that went. I mean, the Bulldogs, the Heart Foundation, the Rockers,
the Heart Foundation. You can go on and on, like there's loads.
Yeah, but not in terms of
not in the modern era.
Yeah, but not even if you look back then. Like, I mean, Marty never achieved what Sean achieved. You know what I mean? So
Marty couldn't stop partying.
No, but you know what I mean? If you go back through it, even if you look at Brett and you look at Jim, you know what I mean? If you look at Davey Boy, and I know Dynamite was he was kind of coming to the end, more or less, you know what I mean? But I mean, even when you look at both of them, I mean, sometimes you get it really freaky where you have the Legion of Doom where they both sort of just don't become it, you know what I mean? But it's just, I suppose the nearest to it in terms of a tag team is probably Hunter and Sean.
But then there is a generational break, and you could actually say, going back to this very conversation, the generational break between the psychology of tag teams stopped in the golden era and started with the modern rejuvenation of the tag team fucking division, which was the three boys. And the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardys all went off to have individually separate careers from their tag teams. They were a mesh of co-talent as opposed to hard man hot tag. Like the old way was you had the slender young fucking man who could go, who could walk, who could hold, who could stretch, who could work the ring for 15 minutes and get bet around by two big men, make that big tag, and then Big Boy comes in fucking with the running clothesline, just smashes everything up, including us, and then you get the 1, 2, 3. And then you get this era of tag teams where the three boys, or the six boys, forgive me, just create this cacophony of charisma, and every single one of them can go individually, but also mesh together because they want to be together, because they look back at the past, and everybody looked at the LOD and pointed down and said, if they brought into the business, you can stand beside your mate and work your charisma, have a career, and look at each other and go at the end and they go, you know what? We did what most tag teams didn't do. We stuck together through thick and fucking thin. And each of those tag teams did it as well. They showed loyalty to each other that surpassed company loyalty, paycheck loyalty, belt loyalty. And it's a beautiful thing. It was like, tag can matter so far past what we usually perceive it to be, which is which one is going to be the breakout, which one is going to be the Gary Barlow or the Robbie fucking Williams. No, let's not. Let's stay together. Let's be great, and let's transmit this ideal of community. You look at a bro and go, you've got my back. We didn't fall out of the same womb. We are blood because we choose each other. Our charisma works for each other. You fucking make me laugh when all the lights are off and there's nobody around in the crowd to watch us. We're forever, It
also an interesting point. It tends to be the guy, from what I can gather, normally, who's first announced. So, like Edge and Christian. And then if you look at the Dudley Boys, it's always the Dudley Boys, Bubba Ray and Devon. And you can go back down through a lot of tag teams. Even the Hart Foundation was always Bret the Hitman Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. So that first guy that's normally announced tends to, maybe it's just, coincidence, tends to be the go-getter. I suppose the adverts,
or be the guy who the company's grooming.
Yeah, or it could be like, the adverse of it is probably demolition, where you have axe and smash, because you wouldn't say smash and axe.
Fuck off, Bush.
But it tends to be, if you go back through it, like even with the Rockers, it was always, the Rockers was always Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. The Bulldogs was always Davy Boy and the Dynamite Kid. You know what I mean? So there might be something in that, you know what I mean, where they push that first guy in there, and he tends to be the one that excels.
Well, I suppose in the last few minutes that we do have, we should kind of come up to date now, because we're talking about someone that has come back and literally won the Royal Rumble and is planning to stay around for the foreseeable future, basically. At least another 2 or 3 year run is what he says. So, I mean, and I mean, he's a man by his word. You can tell that. That's for sure. And very, very.
Do you know what?
Driven.
Oddly enough, I didn't get to speak in the last Rumble one, and I'm going to do it right now.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
One of my favorite moments in that Rumble was
Christian.
When, man, when two boys at the long end of their career.
Tell me a man that didn't shed a tear during that. Niall got quite emotional.
Oh, goosebump shit, man. It's like, here we are. I wore fucking WW gold. I've seen you wearing, NWA, 10 pounds, TNA, whatever you want to call it. I seen you wearing that.
That was a real emotional moment. That was real, like that was. You could see, but it too. Do you see? Remember the hard camera shot the Edge's face first, Jay, and you could, because Edge isn't a guy that can hold his tears. I was just like, "Wow, you got me."
They could have done it so much. They could have done something for him. What they could have done was not fucking told them and not let each other know before it. And what they should have done was Cilla Black fucking surprise Saturday night at 7:00, sprung her on him in front of the world with no crowd and let him have his emotional breakdown in the ring, kept it from him, and let Christian come out after he took a fucking severe hiding off everybody in his return comeback Rumble. One ace in the sleeve. You want emotion in pro wrestling? Boom. Fucking have it, son.
What are you talking about, Jay? That's what happened.
Oh, yeah, that's what happened, yeah.
Come on.
If you really want to know what the business meant to him, go back and look at when he had to relinquish the belt for his first retirement. The man was in tatters in the ring. Like, he just, floods of tears giving up that belt. The one thing I'd like to say as well, we spoke about, how talented the man is, and even outside of the belts, Jay. He's one of few wrestlers I know that actually wrote his own autobiography. He didn't get a ghostwriter.
Yeah, good book too.
And it's a super book and a super read.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I thought I'd put that in there. I think that's really important to stress that.
So
it absolutely is.
What's the future? Let's play a little bit of fantasy booking here towards the end and have some fun. Something that we've never actually done before, because a lot of the legends that we talk about on this show, we don't really get to kind of play fantasy booking with. I know there's been a lot of calls on your end, Niall, as well, for us to do kind of another CM Punk episode and do one on the potential of a comeback, which that would be kind of cool actually to kind of sit down and I like that idea actually. Going to talk about the possibilities. Well, that lad is sitting at home working, everyone going, I write comics and I star in B movies now.
Everything's brilliant.
I've got about 30 million in the bank and I've got a hot little Puerto Rican wife. Fuck you guys, I'm never coming back. But
it's hard to believe the desire of that man to push dollars towards Vince McMahon. It's just,
you know what I mean? Do you know, it's amazing. It's amazing. But let's do, like, in fairness, we've got about, let me see, what have we got? We've got about 10 minutes here now where we can actually sit and talk about some fantasy booking here for WrestleMania. There's no point in getting too far ahead, but WrestleMania. I have a theory. I'll start first. I have a theory that I know that Sheamus is going to be wrestling for the belt again with Drew McIntyre and all. Waste of time. Drew McIntyre is going to win that again. So that's.
We say.
Sheamus, I think, is going to have a match with McIntyre at some point. So, but I have a feeling that somehow Orton is going to win a belt between now and WrestleMania, and that will be the payoff finally at Mania. You can nod your head all you want. I'm just trying to give the fucking. This is my. Well, wait till I hear your one.
You don't take that, Joe.
Now comes back. No, I have a bit of a feeling that may happen. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, to be fair. This modern booking, nobody fucking knows. But what I did like was the fact that he went down to NXT. I mean, obviously, I put my hand up on bias. I got a nice. It was pretty nice to see him talk to a fucking brother and go down and basically say you do things that nobody even thought about. And
Sheamus isn't in NXT.
Oh, I'm talking. Oh yeah, Sheamus is all right as well. Sheamus is all right. I rib him on this show, but he's all right. But no, Balor, for him to go down to talk to Pete Dunne and Balor and give them, and
we all want that match. We all want. It doesn't matter where it's Mania. We all want Edge and Balor.
Mm-hmm. And I think Edge wants that too. Because there's no way that was just done as a thing. That's something Edge wants. He said that in numerous interviews that he wants to work there. Jesus, but anyway,
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
So that's mine. So I'll tell you what, Jay, you go. You have 2 minutes to give your predictions as well, and then the other boys will have theirs as well.
It's very exciting. He is 47 years of age. He has done it all, been it all, seen it all. And maybe he wants it all. Maybe he's going to spend the year, fuck Mania. Maybe he's going to clean sweep. Maybe he wants every single one of them belts in 1 year, set a new record. Maybe that's his business. I don't know. I don't care. All I know is if he's in the ring and he's wrestling, I know I'm going to see something worthwhile.
Yeah.
I'm going to see something,
I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
Why stop at one? Put all three on him. Fuck it.
Noel.
Not a champion.
Noel.
And also, I'd like to see a little bit of Craig, or a little bit of Christian, a little bit. I was of the belief that Christian had retired. I thought he was out of the business.
Got 20 seconds. This is like a presidential debate.
Bring back tag wrestling.
Go for it, Noel.
Well, I would have went all Vince Russo on it. While you were all at home crying at the Rumble there at the end of it and sobbing in your nostalgia and all, I would have had him spin Christian around and hit him with a kill switch, and then I would have just went on and I would have went, you and me, Christian, career versus career at Mania, and pointed to the sign and walked
wife
off.
Versus wife.
Yeah, not the career versus career, and not to be seen again until nearly WrestleMania.
Don't make me lead your bitch, Christian.
This is what happens. This is what happens, boys and girls and kids, that when you're married too long, you build this very dark.
Well, you know, when all these people, and listen, I'm more theory and nostalgia than anyone, but like that would have just
you just put him in a wife versus wife match, you creep. What are you talking about?
I didn't put him in a wife versus wife. I did a career versus career. You put him in a wife versus wife. You're the one of this podcast going around burying bitches, not me.
I did. And I'm not sorry.
Joe, why don't you bring some order to the court here?
Joe never liked that, so he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, that's true. Never been his biggest fan. But I'm gonna keep it simple. I think he's just gonna go after Reigns. Heel versus face. Keep it simple. Done. Also,
that's a very bad move.
Joe, you're the problem.
I can see a swerve.
Jesus, Johnny Logic.
Also, I can see the only swerve I can see happening is that he goes after one of the tag titles and brings Christian in with him, and they have that.
But he can't do that at Mania, though.
Pardon?
Is he going to do that at Mania, though?
Nah, he's going to go after Reigns at Mania.
Yeah, you could do it on the pre-show.
Yeah, that's a good shout, actually. Yeah. Because they need all the help they can get over.
That's a good shout.
But you know, I like it. That's good.
Such good shout.
The one thing you were talking about with Balor and with Pete Dunne and stuff like that, could you see Vince, defending the NXT title on the main card at Mania? I know it's Edge and it's a big deal, and Balor obviously is a huge deal, and friends with most of us on this podcast, if not all of us. But could you see Vince actually making that happen?
Well, it's funny enough when you say that. I was saying something that I didn't believe the other day, but a lot of these sources, and in fairness to Meltzer, we give him a lot of shit on these podcasts, but he generally does get like some, I suppose, decent information when it comes to, it's just his opinions on what he sees as real wrestling that annoy me. But in terms of his, he gets a lot of stuff right. But apparently Vince has taken a shine to Balor again. And I'd say that's true. H's hard work as well by going, God, Listen, this guy is the fucking real deal. Wait and you see it.
It's true. Balor's hard work.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but it's also H's fucking constant pushing of the guy as well, and obviously Regal too, but H mainly because H has that ear. I'm sure he's been working on.
It's also logic. You rest the man. He's done this continually with every man who held gold around him, whether it's Shawn Michaels losing his smile or Balor going down to rejuvenate.
Do you know what would be really cool in terms of booking? If Edge won the Universal belt before Mania.
Yes.
And then he went to TakeOver and he cost Balor the NXT belt. And then Balor faced him at Mania for the Universal belt and won the belt off Edge at Mania. And the Universal belt comes full circle. Now, that would be incredible.
Well, that's my kind of booking. I like that kind of shit.
Also, when you've had every belt in the business and you can't come near run, but there's a belt in the business that's there that wasn't there back when you were legit working pretty much to the prestige that it was. He hasn't had that. And also, he doesn't need money.
From a fucking movie break just to match that, the prick.
Well, he might. But all I'm saying is Edge hasn't had the championship in that company that he's never owned before.
Yeah, I like that. And in fairness...
And he doesn't need money.
And you know what?
Yeah.
If someone like Balor went in a fucking, a top match with someone of Edge... That is, I mean, that's basically the torch being passed. That's SummerSlam 92, Brett losing the belt to fucking Davey, where one star is made out of the other one winning. You know what I mean?
We have spoken a number of times. I mean, there's no doubt Finn Balor has to make his way back to that Universal title again.
It's going to happen. It is going to happen.
The injustice of it with the injury and everything else was just ridiculous,
But I think, again, like I said, I think the psychology at play here, when you've got an ace in the hole, you let it rest until you need it. Mm-hmm. This is a continual company business. I don't think the company has ever... We talk about the goalpost moving on kayfabe, and I'm a big proprietor of this. I don't believe they ever lost faith in Balor. I believe that he was sent to a place to rest, rejuvenate, and lend his global experience and his wealth of knowledge to germinate amongst a roster of people. He's not down there wasting his fucking time sitting on the bench.
No, far from it. Far from it.
You know what I mean? Yeah. He's elevating. It's not like go down to the Boondocks, the B leagues. He's down there elevating a belt to a world title.
Yeah, but I mean
with him around his waist, like.
Yeah, but I mean in terms of his own career. I would believe for himself, not necessarily for fans or for WWE, but for himself, I believe his career needs to come back to that Universal title again. He needs to right that wrong, if you like, and it wasn't his fault; it was an injury. You know what I mean? But that wrong still needs to be fault. Because I really believe. I mean, if he hadn't been injured in that run he would have had with that Universal belt, I think would have been outstanding.
It would have made. But I'll tell you what, there's a conversation for another day, because I do believe that Finn Balor's story's only been written. We could do a fucking 2-hour show on Finn Balor, for God's sakes. And I'm sure at one point in the future we are going to do. I think that is all we have time for this week. It's actually been great talking about Edge, I've got to say, because the possibilities are endless now. It was great to go back and deep dive on his career. The first part of his career, to coin Shawn Michaels kind of terminology, you know what I mean? And hopefully he has the same kind of run that Michaels did when he came back the first time. And I've got to say, as Jay said, he's a 47-year-old man who looks like a 37-year-old man. And, long may that continue. And I think it's just a case of watch this space. Mania this year is going to be very, very intriguing, and the build-up is going to be very intriguing. So I suppose until next week, for me, Ian the Dynamo Kelly, for Joe the Beef Duignan, for Shopkeeper Noel Hogan, and for the DJ Kennedy himself, we are the Four Podmen. This show has been brought to you by Wrestling Mania, located in Dublin, St. Stephen's Green. Still taking orders online. Find them on Facebook. Noel is your hookup down below. And until then, we will see you next week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, smash that bell notification. Keep commenting on all our stuff. Give us feedback. And also, Stay safe in the cold, in the warmth, wherever you are. Listen to this in the Jacks, and we'll see you next week.
Woo!